Hello, everybody. My name is Alina Ploaie. I'm a professor for this unit related to ENPI and ENI cross-border cooperation programs. As you already know about myself, I'm a counselor within the Managing Authority for a cross-border cooperation program, Romania-Serbia. And today, I have near me a very high specialized professional in the field of audit, Olga Guza. It's a senior auditor and also general director within the ministry in Latvia. I know Olga from, I think, more than 5 years now, because we delivered different courses and trainings, and we were speakers and trainers within various events organized by different institutions in the field of ESI funds, managing and control. This subject, it's very common and familiar usually for specialists in this field, but today I invited Olga, and I'm very happy that she accepted my invitation, because I wanted also to see the side and the point of view of an auditor in this field. So thank you, Olga, for being here today with us, and please present yourself, your experience, and later on I will address you a couple of questions. Thank you again for accepting my invitation.
Thank you, Alina, for this introduction. Yes, my name is Olga, and I represent one of the audit authorities from Latvia. Our audit authority is situated in the Ministry of Finance, and we are mostly working with the European Social Fund, European Regional Development Fund, and Cohesion Fund. I work for the auditing of the EU funds already for 18 years. So I started even at the time when Latvia was a candidate country. And at that time, I was working with the auditing of pre-accession financial instruments. And then when Latvia became member state, I continued to work with the audits of EU funds and within the audit authority. So we are working with the different kinds of audits. So it's system audits, audits of operations, financial audits, and so on. But our main objective is to issue the opinion in order to provide the assurance to the European Commission that the EU funds were distributed and implemented in accordance with all the requirements and so on. So yes, it's my pleasure to participate today with this interview and to share with you my experience.
Thank you again. And we are very happy to have a highly professional auditor here today with us. Thank you again. My first question is related, let's say, from the point of view of the auditors. Which are the most important elements to be considered when a person decides to apply, let's say, to be engaged in a EU-funded project?
When a person wants to apply for the EU-funded projects, there are several elements to consider. And first of all, most important, I would say, is to think about the objective of your project. Because it's the main part, and then all the other elements should contribute to the achievement of this objective. And it is good if this objective is SMART, so it is specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound. And if this objective is SMART from the very beginning, it is then very easy to monitor the achievement of this objective. And also for us as an auditors, it is very easy to say whether the project have achieved this objective, and then to provide our positive opinion about the implementation of this project. And then the next element, when you decided on this SMART objective, then it is also important to prepare a good quality project application. And usually the authorities which are responsible for implementation of these projects, they have a special templates for this project application, so you can use these templates. But my advice is never underestimate any of the information required to be filled in this project application template. For example, it is always required to fill in the risk assessment. And in my experience as an auditor, this risk assessment is usually filled in like very formally. But it's very important from the very beginning to think about which risks can you face when you are implementing your projects, because then you can introduce proper monitoring system and performance indicators and so on. The important element is also budget of the project. So it's also important to introduce the very structured and good budget from the very beginning, and you can use your experience from the previous projects, or you can also make some maybe research work beforehand, so how much your activity, services or works can cost, and yeah, maybe you can even make market research and think about prices and so on.
We ask,
And
we
yes.
ask in general the managing authority, usually even if we don't have comments from the evaluators or assessors from the assessment phase, we ask before contract signature in the pre-contracting phase, that market analysis, market research, usually for, let's say, higher prices or following our professional judgment. When we see that some costs are higher, we ask for this market analysis. And when we have a very realistic budget, it is very easy, to implement the project, and no major modifications are to be performed in the implementation phase. And of course, that project in the end will have a higher absorption rate because the costs are real, they are not put just some numbers there and figures and that's it. Perfect. Thank you. That is a very, very high argument, and I want to underline the importance, because many beneficiaries are complaining, why are you asking these documents? But actually, also you auditors are following this realistic cost. And for us, because for managing authority, usually these differences in prices and non-realistic budgets for us are just a way of losing money, because we don't have time to implement other projects with the economies remained. Perfect. Yes, please continue.
Thank you for your additions. And then the next element, which is very important, is the project team. So the people who will work with the implementation of the project. So you must think in advance which experts do you need in order to successfully implement this project. Of course, you need a project manager and deputy project manager, but then probably a procurement expert and maybe IT expert, accountant, always maybe a financial expert in addition to the accountant. And if you have the construction works, then maybe a construction expert or engineer in the specific field. So this project team should be ready at the very beginning of the project, and then you should think also whether these experts will work full-time on the project, or they will perform these as an additional task to their day-to-day responsibilities. So it's also very important, and it will depend on the scope of the project, whether it's a small or very big project. And then also very important to think about the monitoring system of the project. So how you within your institution will monitor the implementation of the project. Of course, you will have to submit the payment claims and project reports to the contracting authorities. But usually this is done once in a quarter, for example. But you have to monitor the implementation of the projects more also on a daily basis. So probably you will have a monitoring committee consisting, for example, from the project manager and some higher official in your institution who will participate in the making of more important decision on the project and so on. So it's also, and how you will report, and how you will send the information within your institution about this project. And it's also important to think about the performance indicators. So usually performance indicators are also defined from the side of the contracting authority, but you must think whether you need maybe additional indicator in order to monitor the performance of this project. And if you use the predefined indicators, you must think whether you understand the definitions of these indicators, know whether you understand what data do you need in order to calculate these indicators, and also you must think how you will collect this data. So whether you already have all the necessary data within your organization, or you should think about some new IT systems or some new systems how to collect this data. Yes, I think this is it about
It's
this
a
first
very
question.
wide description, and I think you surprised and underlined the most important aspects. And I like your way of presenting, just like the teacher. It's very, very useful that you presented the most important, the objectives, the budget, and the indicators. And yes, everything should be very, very real, and the monitoring should be daily basis, as you said. Not many beneficiaries are doing that. They don't consider important, but sticking to reality of each project, it's the most important aspect. Yes, thank you. It was a very nice description. I really love it. Thank you very much. I have another question. Let's say some common mistakes. Usually, which are the common mistakes or errors or irregularities, let's say, that you found during your, let's say, professional experience in implementing, and if you funded projects? Are the errors related to the public procurement procedures, or not knowing the relevant legislation, or not applying the visibility requirements? Which do you consider, let's say, common errors, or just some examples?
So of course, the area where most mistakes and irregularities are found is the area of public procurements. And it's among all the member states and among all the funds. So it's the most risky area. And I can mention also maybe some examples. First of all, the first example is the discriminatory selection criteria or award criteria. So when you put a selection criteria which eliminates some bidders from participating in your procurement procedure, so this is discriminating criteria, and it shouldn't be applied like that. Then also substantial modifications of contracts. So when you have already concluded your procurement procedure, signed the public procurement contract with the bidder, and then afterwards, after some time, you modificate this contract because you can't implement it within the foreseen deadline or within the foreseen budget. So if these modifications are substantial, then you can face a 100% correction. Then also inappropriate exclusion of bidders. So of course, if the bidder doesn't comply with the selection criteria, then you must exclude him from the participation in the procurement procedure. But sometimes we see that these bidders are excluded more on a formal basis, not based on the substantial basis. So it's also you should see and look if especially if the bidder offer the lowest price, you must see whether you exclude him correctly if he doesn't correspond to some selection criteria. And another important topic is a conflict of interest, where we find a lot of irregularity during last time. So you must know the regulations of your country regarding the conflict of interests, because of course there are EU level directives and regulations which defines the conflict of interests, but then each member state think how to implement these directives in their own national regulations. So you must read your own national legal acts and to understand when you can come across the conflict of interests with, for example, some of the bidders. And then if you select the bidder with which you have a conflict of interest, for example, your wife or husband are working for this bidder, then it might be a fraud. And then also 100% correction can be applied to your project. So be careful, just know the rules and requirements. And my advice here is don't be afraid to ask for advice or consultation from your contracting authorities or maybe from your procurement monitoring institutions. So just ask for example, ex ante to review your procurement documents, whether all the selection criteria are okay, whether all the requirements are followed, and so on. Also use the information available on the website. Probably there are some guidance available and questions and answers on the main topic of the public procurement. And also contracting authority must be also implementing some seminars or workshops for the final beneficiaries. So use also information provided during these seminars in order to be in order to have the full information about the requirements on the public procurements. Yes.
Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. Yes, so as a recommendation, as you say, we have to be too knowledgeable about the public procurement rules, how to avoid conflict of interest, even if we, maybe we don't know which, let's say, which requirement, but we should ex ante be prepared, to face any possible errors. And yes, your recommendation to stick with the rules and to find the national institution that provide usually the legislation. They have also in Romania, we have this public procurement authority, let's say, and they have on the website clear even cases like best practices, frequently asked questions, even errors, situation with errors and, models of errors that eventually led to financial corrections and how to avoid that. Yes, these are very, very nice recommendations, and try to avoid everything, because see, the auditors are looking to this, and yes, for this programming period still remains these public procurement issues are debatable and possible, ways of corrections. Thank you, Olga. Very, very clear descriptions of possible errors. And my last question is related with one piece of advice, of any advice, let's say, you have for any new beneficiary that decides to apply for a EU-funded project. Just one advice, let's say. I know there are many.
Yes.
But
I will select such a horizontal advice. I would advise to remember always the principle of sound financial management, because if you want to apply for the EU-funded projects, you may think that you will receive EU funds, and these are not your money, so you can spend this money not in an economical, efficient, and effective way. But it's not true, because after all, it's the money of the taxpayers of the European Union, so also your money is in some way. And we must think to spend this money bearing in mind this principle of sound financial management, which means that you do all of the activities within the projects in a most economical, efficient, and effective way. And when you, for example, implement the public procurement and you have ready your public procurement documents, just read through and think whether I will get the most economic, efficient, and effective service or work or supply with these within this public procurement, or should I define more criteria, selection criteria, or should I define something different in my technical specifications, and so on. So it's a very, very good principle to always bear in mind. And I can add also that even some member states have the financial corrections foreseen for the cases when you do not strictly apply this principle of sound financial management. So maybe you stick to all the legal requirements and all the legal procedures, but you, after all, you don't procure the most economically advantageous service or work or supply, then you will receive a financial correction. And you also must remember that not in all the situation this will be your fault, because there are some fraud cases also in the EU-funded projects. So for example, bidders can use the prohibited agreements between themselves, or they can falsify some documents. So you must also look and see these red flags of the fraud. And if you see the red flags, if you see that some bidders want to illegally, I don't know, take money from you, then you must report these to the contracting authority or directly to the police. So just ensure this sound financial management.
Yes, thank you. This is the most precious pieces of advice, and I really like the trees that you very nice underline in your answer. Thank you very much, Olga, for all the information that you provide us today. I think it was helpful, and I think that all the participants will enjoy your advices, and I hope that they will have the courage and the initiative to participate in EU-funded project, and of course to have in mind all the information that was delivered by yourself today. And thank you for your time. And again, I really like that you're present here and your input. Thank you.
Thank you.